Hi, my name is Crystal Paternity, and I've been asked to talk about mission work. My background as a missionary includes domestic and international mission work. I've done mission work in Virginia, in Columbia, South Carolina, and here in Tallahassee, Florida, where I live currently. I've also done mission work overseas in Uganda. I've been a couple of times now, and it seems to be something of a long-term project that God has called me to be a part of. When people think about missions, they commonly think about people traveling internationally to help those in need. But missions is something that can be done locally or internationally, and everybody has strengths in either area. People think about missions, a lot of times they think about digging wells or building houses or doing camps or things like that. And while missions includes all of those things, sometimes it can be not really the traditional experience that people are used to hearing about. Sometimes mission work can involve ministering to people in ministry. So for example, on trips to Uganda, I've been a part of a team where we've gone and just provided encouragement to the clergy that are doing local missions there. Sometimes just being there, just showing up, is a form of ministry in and of itself, which is something that we don't really understand. We want to go and do something. We want to, put shovels to the earth, and we want to, paint somebody's house, and we want to do something tangible. But sometimes there's a spiritual need there that God is calling us to meet. In the book of Matthew, we read about how Jesus said to his disciples that the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. He tells them to pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. And I think that that is something that we should all take to heart. Mission work is something that people assume sometimes that other people will just take care of it, or that maybe it's not for them. But mission work is something that we're all called to as Christians, whether we do it on a local level or an international level. I realize for some people that mission work can seem like a very daunting endeavor. It can seem like something where they don't know where to start and they don't feel capable or equipped to be a missionary. I would encourage you to take a step in that direction. Take a step towards maybe going to an informational meeting about a trip, or looking up some resources online about international mission groups or domestic mission groups. Start the process. Just start. And pray that along the way, God would change you as a person, that he would change your heart, that he would equip you with the skills that you need to be a team member on a missionary team. I know that for me, the first time that I considered going to Uganda, one of the biggest questions that came up initially was, how are we going to pay for all this? And then fundraising became a big question mark for me. Asking people for money and help in general is not one of my favorite things, but I discovered that through the mission process, it's one of those things that's actually very critical to ministry. And what it does is it enables people to contribute to the missions process. People who maybe can't go overseas, or aren't ready to go, or maybe aren't even called to go at that point in their lives. It gives them an opportunity to contribute to the missions process, to support you, either in prayer or through financial support, and in some way help out as a member of a community that's ministering to another body of people. When I returned from my first trip to Uganda and began to share my experience with family and friends, one of the things that I heard a lot was, man, that's so far to go. I don't know if I could do that. And I got a sense that people felt inadequate because they didn't go as far as I did, or they felt like they couldn't do what I did. And I try to encourage them that just because I was called to go to Africa, I knew that very solidly, that I was called to go there, doesn't mean that they're called to go to the same place. Just because there's a need halfway around the world doesn't mean that we're not called to local ministry. One is not any more important than the other. So I try to encourage people to be in prayer and discern what it is that God has asked you to do. One is Operation World, which goes into detail about different nations of the world, into their populations and some of their needs. So if nothing else, you know how to better pray for the different countries of the world. But then you can also see maybe there's an area that God is calling you to. Another book that's really important for either short-term or long-term missions is When Helping Hurts. It's something that goes into detail about the pitfalls and the strengths of mission work. It talks about ways that we may think that we're helping a community when actually we're hindering them. So I think it's very important, if for nothing else, just general awareness, and maybe to combat some of the misconceptions that you might have about mission work. I think that that's a really important resource for you to look into. Another good resource for long-term mission work, particularly with community development, is Compassion, Justice, and the Christian Life. It talks about community development as a long-term form of missions, very similar to When Helping Hurts. It's really eye-opening in terms of things that we think that we're doing that can be really great for a community, which can actually be quite harmful. And I would also encourage you to just read books about missionaries who have gone before us. I would encourage you to read about the different saints over the history of the church. Read about different martyrs who have been persecuted for their faith and some of the things that they were doing and some of the things that they went through. I first became a Christian. One of the very first trips that I ever went on was a domestic trip. I went to Virginia to help with a work camp where we went out into the community there and we helped senior citizens and people in need repair their homes, repair their properties, and that was my first introduction into the world of missions. God has also called me to be a missionary in my sphere of influence, so my work family, my biological family, the people that I interact with on a daily basis here in Tallahassee. I've done mission work overseas in Uganda. I've been a couple of times now. I'm also a nurse by trade, and so a lot of my mission work has involved nursing work of some kind. But I've done the typical painting houses and small home repairs and things like that as well. Mission work is something that we're all called to do, whether on a small scale or a large scale. You may be familiar with Mark 16:15, where Jesus tells his disciples to go unto all the nations and share the gospel with every creature. It's something that is a command for each and every one of us as Christians.